Like the younger ages that are allowed to vote, their voices have been the most absent from politics.
It's really just our future that we have to be concerned about. I mean, I think it's crucial. I'm pretty sure, isn't it 40% of, I think, the Gen Z of the vote? So it's really just our future that we have to be concerned about. And if we're not voting and if we're not using our, civil liberties that we get, then there's no way that the government's actually going to represent us, because people are always upset at like Congress that they're not representing them, or the presidency, but they're not ever going to represent them if people don't ever vote in mass.
It's so important for the youth to vote right now is because our generation, the younger generation, is starting to outnumber the older generation. So it's really important that if we want to make changes and we want things that maybe we care about to show up in politics, for us to show up and vote so that those things can happen.
I think it's important for the youth to vote because like the younger ages that are allowed to vote, their voices have been the most absent from politics up until then, because for like 18 years of your life, you have no say in what laws you follow or like what happens to you in regards to the government or laws. So like right after that point, I think it's important because it's the most input like all of the youth have into government, not only the people who can vote, it's also representative of the kids who are under the age of 18 as well.
Well, I think it's definitely good for them to start caring earlier than they can vote, just so that the time that they're able to vote, this isn't their first time doing it. They have experience with things. It's also just good for them to know what's going on in their country, because someday they're going to be in control of it. And they also need to communicate with the people around them who are in control of it right now and do have the ability to vote, because that's kind of their impact at the moment.
It's important for the youth to vote because they need to be involved, like I previously stated, in government. It's their future that they are voting for. It is how they want to see change. So if they see injustice and they want to speak up about it, it's their future which they're impacting. It's the future of the country. And our generation will be the generation in the future that is in power. So it's important that they stay civically educated. And voting is one of the most important civic duties to the youth.
Oh my gosh. I think it's so important, and it becomes more and more important as the years go on. I think with each new generation, historically, there's been a more progression towards the left, especially regarding social issues, because our society is constantly learning and the status quo is constantly adapting. And I think in order for our country to become more inclusive and more equitable, we need to encourage young voters to become civically active.
Especially in this year's election, I think that as some of the older generations are unable to go out or they're passing away, the new generation of voters needs to be introduced earlier so that they can make up for that margin that is being lost. And even though that majority of that margin may be being lost, it's still a big margin that has to be filled in for. So I think it's important that young voters can get out and vote, and they can express their own opinions. I think that's especially important as well.